Hi everyone, welcome to episode 13 of Show Me How It's Done. I hope you guys are all excited for today's card. Last week I showed you an adorable barn card with our darling donkeys, and I promised to have something fun in celebration of our new bundles that started today. So we have the Hey Chick bundle and the Hey Birthday Chick bundle, both with coordinating dies. So they're super cute. There's lots of potential for you to play with those guys. And of course, this one has a set as well. So these are now available for you to purchase, and we're going to play with them today. And I would like to show you how to make a super fun chicken coop to go with, of course, the barn that you made yesterday. So this was our little barn, and I decided to make a smaller version to accommodate our chickens. I also had a couple people asking me about fitting the barn inside an envelope. And just so you know, it doesn't fit in a standard A2 envelope. I ended up just going to the dollar store and buying some of these letter envelopes, and they fit perfectly in there. They worked out to the same price pretty much as our other envelopes would have, and it's just a quick and easy way to send this off to somebody. Okay, however, I modified this little guy so he will fit in an envelope for you, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So you can make a really standard card. You can have a plain front, or I'm going to show you how to step it up and put a little peekaboo window. And then on the inside, we've got a place to write and some fun chickens roosting inside there as well. So hello to those of you who are watching. Hi, Stella. And if you can't watch this live, hopefully you're watching it later on as well. So let's get going. I'm going to put that there so you can see it. So you will need a piece of real red cardstock. I have cut this at 3 3/4 by 8.5 inches. You're going to put 2 score marks on here. So one is going to be at 1 3/4, and one is going to be at 5 1/8. Okay, so 3 3/4, 5 1/8. And then we're going to end up using our bone folder and giving ourselves a nice crisp line to fold our card up with. Okay, so that will give us this opening and closing mechanism like so. If you notice, yours is like mine, it's got a little bubble here. That just means that this part is a teeny tiny bit long. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer, and you can just take off the tiniest little bit so your card closes properly. Okay, you don't need to take off much, but now it will close flat. So we're going to decorate the front. Let's start with the roof, since if you watched last week, this will be quite a refresher for you. So from our stitched triangles dies, I have taken the largest of this style of triangle, and we're going to put adhesive just on the top of this rectangle piece here. Okay, so not on the big base, but on this little rectangle. You can use whatever sort of adhesive works for you, and just put it right on that rectangle as opposed to on the back of this triangle. And you'll see exactly why in a second. Like so. Okay, so we're going to attach this on top and just make sure that it's lined up with the bottom of your little flap and roughly in the middle of this space. Okay, so you will have these weird overhangs. You can either grab your trimmer, or I just grab a pair of scissors and cut through both layers here, but use the line of your triangle as a guide so that you can just cut off this excess part right here, and your card will now have a roof shape on it. Okay, so there you go. There's an adorable little roof that goes on the back as well. So to decorate this, last time we ended up having some overhangs on our roof. This time I thought, hey, let's make you know, it more succinct so nothing gets bent. So we're just going to cut these off at the appropriate lengths. So what I've done is I've given myself 3 strips of basic white. They are 1/4 of an inch thick by 4 inches long. You'll end up having to trim some of them off, but at least this gives you some workable space. So I always like to start with the one at the bottom first, and then you can put the ridge lines on in whichever order you'd like. Okay, so line that up with the top. That's your priority, like so. And grab another one. We are going to need a few more throughout the project, so that's why I have a pile of them here. So you can go ahead and cut yourself like 7 of them when you're first starting out. And then to trim, just open the little flap up and you can cut off that excess. Like so. All right, so here is an adorable little base. We're going to add a hayloft. So I went to my layering ovals and I grabbed a basic white and a real red, and then this hay bale is actually from our Peony dies. I cut that out in Bumblebee Cardstock, the smallest little flower that you can find, and that's what we're going to use for our hay bale. So if you're wondering about the oval sizes, the red one is the 2nd smallest in the set, and the white one is the smallest one in the set. Okay, so you can layer these up however you like. We are going to end up cutting off part of the oval and part of the flower because we just kind of want a bumpy look for a hayloft. So give yourself, you know, a little bit of room up there. And then we're going to attach this onto our card. If you feel more comfortable, you can also just grab your trimmer right now and cut this as a straight line, whatever you prefer. I'm going to use the bottom of my triangle as my guide for cutting. Okay. So just put that nicely onto about halfway so you can see the hay bale. It's right in the middle here. There we go. And then we're just going to turn this over and cut these pieces straight off like this. All right, so that leaves us an adorable little hayloft, but we have chickens and eggs, so I cut out using the dies from the Hey Birthday Chick. There's a set of 2 eggs. So I cut those out, and I could leave them white, but I ended up using my light mint macaron marker to color all of my eggs, just to give them the slightest little toning so that they kind of stood out a little bit against the white trim that I'm using everywhere else. So the easiest way to attach these is with a glue dot. So I tucked my first one in behind the hay a little bit, and then I'm going to add 2 more just in the nest beside it. You will end up needing 8 little eggs. So if you're prepping them for the front of the card, go ahead and make a few extra for the inside of the card as well. Okay, so you'll need 8 of them all together. 3 on the front, 5 on the inside. All right, so our roof is finished. Let's work on these little doors, okay? So this is going to take a few different pieces. So for the front panel door, this is a piece of basic white cardstock. You're going to end up cutting it at 1 3/8 by 3 1/2. And then you'll need 2 rectangles the same size. One is red, one is white. These are going to measure 1 1/8 by 3 1/4. And then you're also going to need to cut yourself a teeny tiny little almost square. You could make it 1 by 1. I made mine 1 inch by 1 1/8, just so that it was the exact same size as this line here. And then you're putting a score mark down the middle of that, because we're actually going to use this as our hinge right in here, okay? Our little hinge. So let's do this one at a time. Let's work on the front part here and do this red zigzag. So last week I showed you how to make a barn door using some of the triangles. This time I want to show you how to make one if you don't own any of the triangles, okay? So what you can do if you're kind of uncomfortable eyeballing the middle mark is take your scoreboard right here and put a mark at 1 5/8. Just a little score mark. We're going to cover it up so it doesn't matter if you can see it, but it will help you do your diagonals for your X on the doors here, okay? So I just cut extra strips. You can end up using one of these strips for both parts of your X, but you're just going to make an X across the front and trim off the excess. And then go the opposite direction. Again, just touching that center line, but not really going over it. Okay, so you could do one giant X across, but I kind of thought it was funner just to make it look like there was 2 doors that could open. Okay, so here's one side of your X. We're going to do the exact same. These are those 1/4 inch white strips. Touching the middle line here and now going the opposite direction. It doesn't matter which side you end up doing first. It won't affect your card. Okay. And then the last one, like so. Okay. So trim off all of that white. We don't need it. And then you can leave your door like this, but I thought it would be even more beautiful if we put a little divider down the middle here so that it looks like it's 2 distinct doors for you. Okay. There we go. There you are. So this piece now is ready for us to attach to the larger piece of white that we cut. Remember the equivalent size one here? This is going on the inside flap. So we're going to attach our red to the large white, and that will give us a nice shadow around the outside of it. Like so. Okay, so let's decorate a little bit of stuff on this piece before we do any more. So our first job is to put on our hinge. Otherwise, we may end up covering something we've done up with it, and we don't want that. So fold this in half on that line. You should end up having 1/4 inch on either side. And we're going to attach this hinge right to the left-hand side of your white paper. Make sure it opens to the left. Okay, so attach this so that you have the spine lined up to the edge and it opens up like so. If you've put it the wrong way, then you could probably end up flipping this around and doing the opposite. But if you can, just check right now that you're opening it the correct way. Okay, so we're going to do a couple stamps next. I have my Memento black because I love how versatile that one is. First thing is I'm going to add my little sentiment. I thought the "You're Still a Spring Chicken" was really cute. So I'm putting that right beside my little tab here. And then I'm adding the little chick with the party hat coming out of an egg. If you put him up like so, you'll end up cutting off most of his hat. So tilt him just to the left a little bit, and you'll barely lose anything off the tips of his hat, okay? Otherwise you're cutting off a good chunk of it, and that's not fun. So to color him, you can color with whatever colors you like. The options that I used were the light Mango Melody. That's my little chick's body hiding in here. I wanted him to kind of stand out a little. So you could be subtle and use like a So Saffron or something like that, but I thought this was a very rich yellow and a good chick color. So light Mango Melody. And then for his beak, I used my dark Pumpkin Pie and his feet. And for his hat, I ended up using my light and dark Bermuda Bay. So I did my dark for the top and bottom of the hat and my light for the inside strip. And then again, you could leave the egg white. It would be just fine. But I decided to bring in that light mint macaron and give it just a little bit of shading so that it stands out a bit. If you've seen farm eggs, they're not pure white all the time. We've got green ones, we've got brown ones, so just give him a little color. And a little trick of the trade for you guys, if you own the light Pool Party marker, this is going to be your best friend. I always like to use it on a colored image to go on the outside of what I've colored. It gives you a little shadow effect, but it makes it look like your little creature is kind of popping out of the card, and it also kind of covers over any, I guess, missteps you may have made in a color bleed outside the lines. So just give him a little shadow. You won't be able to see it a ton on mine, but it's still adorable this way. You're going to then put some adhesive on the back of this piece here. If you're not using tape, it might be challenging, so let's do this part first. Let's do this. So put another piece of adhesive on the top of this little flap. And I wanted to make sure that I had it lined up properly. So I'm going to push this all the way to the top of my door piece, giving myself a nice little buffer on either side of it, okay? So when it rests in here, it is resting in the middle of this white, but the hinge is directly at the top, okay? So now put your adhesive on. I usually do it first simply because tape is easy to take off, but if you're using seal or anything, I don't want this to accidentally get stuck to anything else on you. So we lined that up first so that we make sure to get it exactly where we want this on the front of the card, okay? So make sure before you put it down that your chick is opened to the right way. If you were to put it on upside down, your door looks the same from the front, but of course we've got a weird looking chick on the inside. So turn her around, make sure your chick is facing the right way, and then put this in the middle of the front of your card. Like so. So then you've got a fun little door that can open and close, and you can put whatever message you want on the inside. So for my inside here, I also needed some more detail. I wanted to make sure I had a space to write and then some fun chickens who are actually in the coop. Okay, so let's start with this piece of basic white that we're going to write on. That is going to be the simplest piece to attach first. I ended up cutting this guy at 2 inches by 3.5, and that will go directly on the bottom panel of your card, just very quickly so it's out of your way. You can stamp something else on there, or even, you know, a little chicken head or something else. I just wanted to give myself a little space to write in my card though. Okay, so you've got your nice score line here. Make sure to just bump it with a little bit of a border around that, and you're good to go. Okay, so let's work on this inside part. The easiest way to do it is just to do this on the side and then attach everything when it's ready to go. So we're going to start with our two little chicken windows right here. Okay, so my background is soft suede. I have two of them cut at 1 5/8 by 2 inches. And then on top of that, I used crumb cake. Those are going to be 1 3/8 by 1 3/4 inches. And I used my soft suede ink to put a couple chickens on there. Didn't end up having to color them because I thought they looked adorable just like they were. So I took basically one chicken from each set, I think. So here's one mama chicken stamped there, and you will have half of her hanging off, and that's okay because we're covering up the bottom so it looks like they're both sitting in a nest. There we go. And I know some people might say, hey Lauren, that's the rooster. But no, we're just going to pretend she's another chicken with some fancy hair, because really there's no wattle on there. So we're good. It can be two different types of chickens. I am going to go ahead and attach these to my card. And then we're going to attach a little strip of Bumblebee Cardstock so it looks like they're sitting in a nest full of hay. So you can either go back to those Peony dies and maybe cut out a larger flower and put it over top. But I wanted to play with one of the dies from the set. It actually gives me a really cool crisscross hay look without actually cutting out any sort of shape. So I will show you that die in just a second here. It's this little die right here. I don't know if that will focus. Maybe not. There we go. Do you see the crisscrosses on there? So that makes a really cute hay design, and it doesn't actually cut anything out. So I just lined it up twice and ran it through my machine. So these little bumblebee pieces measure 1/2 inch, and they would be the 2 inches long so that they can fit over top of our little chickens here, okay? So attach those to the bottom of those pieces. Like so. They kind of look really messy, but so does hay. It's a little tiny bit long, so I like to just trim it. And you can either add your eggs now, or I prefer to do it once my chickens are on the card, because then I know how much border I have to work with. So I'm going to put more adhesive on the back. If you're wondering why I'm not using dimensionals on any of the pieces here on the inside, we want that card to be able to close. And so if you put dimensionals, then your card just kind of flops open on itself. And might be a little frustrating if you're trying to lean it on a desk or something like that. So these guys you can just line up in the middle section on the top. Make sure to give them a little buffer as well. And then they're set. And of course we want some eggs. So here's the 5 extras that I had you cut out. I put 3 of them on the chicken on the left here and 2 on the right. So my first little egg gets tucked under the hay, and then 2 little eggs sit on top in her nest. And then my other little chicken just has 2 eggs, and that's okay. So her eggs are both sitting on top of the hay, just on the right-hand side here. Like so. And then I thought it needed something more. I didn't want to use up any of my space in the white, So I decided to go with one of the dies that comes in the Hey Birthday Chick set. It's this adorable happy birthday die. It cuts out all in one piece, but as you can see, they're very detailed pieces. So you'd have to sit here with your Tombow liquid glue to actually attach it. So what I did was I took our adhesive sheets, which basically make a sticker out of whatever you're doing. So I put it on the back of a little piece of Bumblebee cardstock, rolled it through my machine, and what I'm left with is an amazing sticker that has basically pulled out all of my tiny details except for one little circle here. Okay, so here's my sticker. I don't need to fuss with any other glue, and that can just get stuck straight on the front of these little birdies here. So there we go. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun with this little chicken set. I know it's a returning set for some of you if you've been around for a while, the Hey Chick itself, but the dies are new and the coordinating die bundle is also new. So I hope that you're ready to have some more barnyard fun and that today's card was a fun little glimpse into some of the projects that you can do with it. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to catching up with you guys again next week. Bye.